The space station floated like a silver jewel in the dark stretch of the Andromeda expanse. Its massive rings spun slowly, reflecting the light of distant stars. Humans had built it as a hub for diplomacy, trade, and exploration. Ships from countless alien civilizations docked here, creating a colorful mosaic of species, sounds, and smells. For most humans, it was a wonder. For Captain Elias Mercer, it was a workplace, and a challenge he had trained his whole life for. Elias had spent years navigating space, meeting alien races, and solving problems without firing a single weapon. He was chosen for his ability to stay calm, even when surrounded by strangers who looked and thought very differently. Today, however, he was about to meet a being unlike any he had encountered before. The call came through the station's communication network. The Zerth Empire's Queen wished to see him. The Zerth were one of the oldest and most powerful alien civilizations in this sector. They were tall, with translucent skin that glimmered like liquid glass and eyes that reflected colors humans could barely describe. They spoke in soft, musical tones, communicating not just words but emotions. The idea of meeting their ruler filled Elias with both excitement and caution. As his shuttle approached the Zerth's private docking bay, Elias felt a strange sense of calm. The airlock hissed open, revealing a hall larger than any he had seen. Light shimmered along the walls, flowing like a river. And there, at the center, stood the Queen. She was taller than a human by at least 3 feet, her presence commanding, yet serene. Her skin was silver with subtle veins of gold that pulsed like tiny rivers of light. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, Elias felt as though she could see inside his mind. Not in a threatening way, but in a way that made him feel completely understood. "Captain Elias Mercer," she said, her voice soft, melodic, and filled with curiosity. "You have come far, and yet I have watched you long before your journey." Elias bowed politely. "Your Majesty, I am honored. I hope my presence serves your purpose well." The Queen smiled, a movement that seemed to light the room. "You are human. That alone intrigues me. You survive, you adapt, you create. I have heard much about your kind. Some say you are fragile. Some say you are fierce. I wish to know for myself." Before Elias could reply, the Queen waved her hand. A shimmering light filled the room, and the walls seemed to dissolve into the void of space itself. Then, he saw her daughter. The young Zerth girl floated gracefully in the air, her small body surrounded by a soft halo of golden light. Her skin reflected the same silver and gold patterns as her mother's, but in smaller, more delicate swirls. Her eyes, large and bright, looked directly at Elias. "She is Lyra," the Queen said, her voice carrying both pride and caution. "I entrust her to you." Elias blinked. "Excuse me, Your Majesty." "I trust you," the Queen continued. "Lyra must learn from humans, from your patience, your empathy, your courage. She must understand your ways before she can lead my people. In the future, be gentle with her." For a moment, Elias could not move. The weight of her words pressed on him. He had trained for diplomacy, for negotiation, for adventure, but no training had prepared him for raising an alien child, especially one destined for greatness. Lyra floated closer, her small hand reaching toward him. There was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity. Elias held out his hand, unsure of how to greet her. When their hands met, a subtle warmth spread through him. It was not just physical. It felt as if a part of her thoughts had touched his mind. "Do you understand me?" she asked in her soft, musical voice. "I think I do," Elias said carefully. "And I promise I will try my best." The Queen nodded, her eyes glowing slightly brighter. "Good. My time here ends soon. Remember, humans are gentle but also strong. Teach her to balance both. She will face challenges, and she must be ready." Elias felt a mixture of fear and honor. Raising Lyra would be unlike any mission he had faced, but there was also a strange thrill. Perhaps this was why the Queen had chosen him, to see what a human could teach her child. The Queen stepped back, her form beginning to shimmer like light through water. "Do not fail her, Captain. She is not only my daughter, she is the bridge between our worlds." And with that she vanished, leaving only a faint echo of her voice. Elias looked at Lyra, who hovered expectantly. She blinked, tilting her head in a curious gesture. "Where will we go?" she asked. "You and I," Elias said, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts in his mind. "We have a lot to learn from each other, and a lot to see. First, we go home." The shuttle ride back to the human colony was quiet. Lyra seemed content to float beside him, observing the stars with wide, fascinated eyes. She did not speak much, but when she did, her words often carried strange, unspoken meanings. Elias realized quickly that understanding her would require patience and attention he had never needed before. When they arrived at the colony, human staff were ready with supplies, quarters, and a small classroom for her learning. Most humans were cautious, unsure how to treat the alien child. Some whispered that she might be dangerous. Others worried she would never adapt. Elias ignored the murmurs. He had a mission, and it was clear in his mind: protect her, teach her, and understand her. Over the first few days, Elias discovered how extraordinary Lyra truly was. She could sense moods, even intentions, in ways humans could not. She learned quickly, absorbing knowledge about human culture, language, and technology. Yet she also exhibited alien behaviors, floating without support, bending light slightly with a gesture, or communicating in melodies that conveyed emotion rather than words. Elias spent hours each day teaching her simple things: how to hold a book, how to use a keyboard, how to speak politely to others. Lyra mirrored his patience and attention, but she also asked questions that challenged his understanding of the universe. "Why do humans fight each other?" she asked one afternoon, tilting her head. Her voice was calm, but her eyes reflected deep curiosity. Elias paused. It was a difficult question, and he had no simple answer. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "people forget that understanding is stronger than anger. Humans are learning, just like you." Lyra seemed to absorb this, though she did not respond immediately. Instead, she reached out and touched his hand, sending a small spark of warmth that made him shiver. It was not magic, he realized. It was empathy. She could share feelings in ways humans had only dreamed of. Days turned into weeks, and Elias began to see a bond forming. Lyra's laughter, her curious questions, and even her gentle corrections of his mistakes brought a sense of purpose he had never known. This was no longer a mission. It was a journey, one that would teach him as much as he taught her. One evening, as the twin suns of the colony set behind the mountains, Lyra floated beside him on the observation deck. "Captain." "Elias," she said softly. "Why did your people help me even before you met my mother?" Elias smiled, looking out at the orange and pink sky. "Humans, we like to help. We see someone in need, and we try to do what is right. Sometimes we fail, but we try. That is what makes us strong." Lyra considered this. Then, slowly, she said, "I will try to be like that too." Elias's chest swelled with pride. This child, this gift from an alien queen, was already learning the most important lesson of all: not power, not intelligence, but kindness. And as night fell over the colony, the stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter. Somewhere, in the vast reaches of space, the queen watched. She had chosen wisely. Elias realized that this journey had only just begun. With Lyra at his side, he would face challenges no human had faced before. And perhaps in time, humanity would show the galaxy its greatest strength. Not weapons, not technology, but the courage to care, to guide, and to teach. For now, though, they had each other. And that was enough to begin. The human colony was alive with movement, yet Elias felt a quiet peace as he walked through its clean corridors with Lyra floating beside him. The girl's silver and gold skin reflected the soft lights of the colony, and her large eyes scanned everything with curiosity. Every time Elias looked at her, he felt both awe and responsibility. Raising an alien child, especially one as special as Lyra, was no ordinary task. The first days had been challenging. Lyra's alien abilities surprised humans and sometimes unsettled them. She could sense emotions without words and could shift light and energy subtly around her, creating patterns that mesmerized observers. Children and adults alike stared, unsure whether to be afraid or amazed. Elias quickly realized that his job was not only to teach Lyra, but also to protect her from misunderstanding. "Don't worry," he told her one morning as they walked to the training area. "Most humans just need time to understand you. Patience is key." Lyra tilted her head. "Patience? Like your hands when you lift something heavy?" Elias laughed. "Yes, exactly like that. You have to be careful, gentle, and steady. Sometimes people's hearts are like fragile glass." Lyra smiled, a small shining gesture that made Elias feel hope. The training area was a wide, open room with artificial gravity adjustable to any level. Elias had arranged it to allow Lyra to move freely without risking damage to herself or the equipment. At first, she simply floated and observed. She seemed to be learning from everything: how humans spoke, how they moved, even how they laughed. "Captain Elias," she asked after a while, "why do humans write symbols on paper?" "They are called letters," Elias explained. "They help us record thoughts, stories, and knowledge. Humans are not fast enough to remember everything, so we write it down." Lyra touched a page gently, and the symbols glowed softly under her fingers. Elias noticed the shimmer, realizing she was absorbing the letters in a way humans could never. "You are learning very quickly," he said, amazed. "Perhaps faster than I even thought possible." Lyra blinked. "I want to know everything," and that became the rhythm of their days. Elias taught her language, history, mathematics, and human culture. Lyra absorbed it all with curiosity and precision, but she also taught him in return. Small gestures, a subtle hum of understanding, or a glance that expressed an idea he had never considered. It was as if her mind worked on levels humans could barely perceive. One afternoon, they visited the colony's botanical gardens. Lyra floated between the rows of flowers, her fingers brushing the petals lightly. The flowers responded, their colors deepening and glowing in subtle patterns. Humans nearby gasped, unable to comprehend the phenomenon. "Do not be afraid," Elias reassured them. "She is gentle, she only wants to interact." Lyra turned to him. "Captain, why do your people grow these plants?" "To feed, to heal, to enjoy. Humans like life that flourishes. We care for it, just as we care for each other." Lyra considered this, then reached out to a small sprout. The tiny plant shivered. Under her touch, its leaves folding and unfolding as though breathing. "I can help," she whispered. The glow around her brightened, and within moments the sprout grew taller and stronger. Elias watched, amazed but also cautious. "Your gift is powerful. You must learn control. Not everyone understands what you can do." Over the next weeks, Elias noticed that humans began to warm to Lyra. Her kindness, curiosity, and respect for life made her difficult to fear. Even the colony scientists, initially skeptical, began to observe her quietly, taking notes on how her abilities could be understood without harming her. However, not everyone was trusting. Some outsiders viewed Lyra as a potential weapon. Rumors began to spread among interstellar traders and rival factions. "A child with powers like that," they whispered, "could change the balance of the galaxy. The humans must be hiding her for a reason." Elias ignored the whispers, focusing instead on the bond between him and Lyra. Their daily routines became a mixture of lessons and adventures. He taught her how to cook, how to navigate simple machines, and how to listen to others' feelings. She in turn taught him to perceive subtleties he had never noticed: the hum of energy in the walls, the way plants responded to attention, and how even a small act of kindness could ripple across the colony. One evening, as the two sat on a balcony overlooking the colony, Lyra spoke softly. Captain Elias, humans are strange. You fight each other sometimes, yet you also care deeply. Why? Elias sighed, watching the distant stars. We are learning, Lyra. Sometimes humans forget the value of care, but we try to remember. That is why it is important to teach you. You will see the best and worst of all civilizations, and you must know how to choose. Lyra floated closer, resting her tiny hand against his shoulder. I want to choose well. I want to help, like you, said. Elias smiled. And you will. You already are. But it was not all peaceful learning. Lyra's abilities began to draw attention from far beyond the colony. Strange signals appeared on communication devices, encrypted transmissions that Elias could not immediately decode. Shadows moved at the edge of sensor ranges. He realized that other alien factions might be aware of Lyra, and not all intentions were friendly. One morning, while teaching Lyra human mathematics, the alerts went off. A small scouting vessel approached the colony, not responding to hails. Its design was unfamiliar, sleek and angular, with energy fields visible on its hull. Elias felt a chill. Captain Elias, Lyra said, sensing his unease. They are curious about me. Yes, he replied. And curiosity is not always kind. The vessel hovered near the station, scanning. Elias knew that if the situation escalated, Lyra could be in danger. But he also understood that she needed to learn to defend herself, not through violence, but through intelligence, diplomacy, and control of her abilities. Over the next few days, he devised exercises for her, moving through obstacle courses, learning to sense the emotions of humans and aliens alike, and understanding how her powers could be used gently to influence the environment without harm. Lyra adapted quickly, showing patience and focus that impressed even Elias. During one training session, she stopped mid-air. Captain Elias, I understand now. Your people are strong, not because of weapons, but because of heart. That is how I can protect myself and others. Elias's heart swelled with pride. Exactly, Lyra. You are learning the human way, and in doing so you will become a bridge between worlds. The bond between them deepened further when Elias introduced Lyra to simple human games. She laughed easily, floating and dodging while learning strategies, rules, and teamwork. Humans around them watched, realizing that despite her alien nature, she could learn, play, and connect in ways that reminded them of children from their own species. Yet even as Lyra thrived, Elias remained cautious. He understood that not all alien civilizations would accept a child with such power. He spent hours at night planning contingencies, teaching Lyra how to hide her abilities when necessary, and how to communicate silently with him in case of danger. Through it all, Lyra never lost her innocence. She was curious, gentle, and endlessly fascinated by humans. She asked questions about love, friendship, fear, and hope. Elias answered as best as he could, realizing that in teaching her about humanity, he was also learning more about himself. Weeks passed, and Lyra became a symbol of possibility. She embodied both the grace of the Zerth and the ingenuity of humans. Her presence reminded everyone that strength came not from dominance or weapons, but from understanding, empathy, and courage. One afternoon, as Elias prepared a lesson on human history, Lyra touched his hand. Captain Elias, she said, I want to see other humans. I want to understand them more. Elias smiled. We will, Lyra. You will meet humans from all walks of life. You will see the best of us, and sometimes the worst. But you will remember the lessons we practice here: patience, kindness, and courage. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. I will remember. Elias realized that the work ahead would be long and challenging. Lyra's abilities and intelligence would attract attention, and some might try to use her for their own purposes. But he also knew that she was learning the most important lesson of all: to balance power with compassion, curiosity with restraint, and knowledge with humility. As night fell over the colony, stars twinkling above like diamonds on black velvet, Elias looked at Lyra and felt a quiet certainty. The future was unknown, filled with danger and opportunity. Yet with patience, guidance, and care, they could face whatever challenges awaited them. Lyra floated beside him, her small hand brushing his. "Captain Elias, we are ready," she whispered. "Yes, Lyra," he replied softly. "Together, we are ready." And for the first time, Elias felt not just responsibility but hope. A hope that humans and aliens could learn from each other, and that one small child could change the fate of worlds. The peace of the colony was shattered one morning by a series of urgent alerts. Strange ships had been detected approaching the system. Their design was unlike anything humans or Zirth had seen. Angular hulls shimmered with black energy fields, making them appear almost invisible until they reflected the light of the nearby star. Elias immediately recognized the danger. These were not explorers. They were invaders, and their target was clear: Lyra. "Captain Elias," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "I can sense them. They do not come in peace." Elias felt a knot of tension tighten in his chest. He had expected curiosity from other civilizations, but not aggression. "Prepare for evacuation," he ordered the colony staff. "We must move quickly. Lyra's safety is our priority." Lyra floated beside him, her small form glowing faintly with energy. "I can help," she said. "I can hide us from them, if you teach me how." Elias nodded. "Very well. Let's begin." He spent the next hour guiding Lyra through a series of exercises designed to mask their presence from sensors. Lyra's alien abilities allowed her to bend light and energy around them, effectively making them invisible to the incoming ships. It was delicate work, and one mistake could reveal them. But Lyra focused, following his instructions with surprising precision. Meanwhile, the colony staff worked tirelessly to prepare emergency shuttles. Some questioned Elias's decisions. "Can she really hide herself and the captain?" a young engineer asked nervously. "She can," Elias said firmly. "Trust is essential. We do not panic. We adapt. That is what humans do best." The first of the shadow ships entered the system, scanning the colony. Their sensors flared briefly, but Lyra's careful work kept them hidden. Elias realized that this was more than a test. It was a lesson for both of them. In this moment of danger, Lyra's training, patience, and intelligence would be tested. As the ships drew closer, one of them broke formation and sent a smaller craft to investigate. Elias knew that if it discovered Lyra, they could be captured in minutes. "Lyra," he said, "you must trust yourself. Use what I have taught you. Focus." The girl's eyes glowed softly. She raised her hand, and the air shimmered like liquid glass. The investigating craft paused, its sensors confused. Light bent around them, creating an illusion of empty space. The craft lingered, scanning again, then moved on. Elias exhaled, relief mixing with awe. "You did it," he said. "You are learning not just human ways, but ways no human could imagine." Lyra smiled, but her expression was serious. "They will return. Soon." And return they did. Within hours, the shadow ships regrouped, now more cautious and determined. They sent messages in encrypted signals, demanding that Lyra be surrendered. Elias intercepted the transmissions. "They think she is a weapon," he said, reading the messages. "They do not understand her. They want to use her power for themselves." Lyra floated silently, her small hands clasped. "Then we must show them that power is not what matters. Knowledge, kindness, and courage. These are stronger than fear." Elias nodded. She had grasped the lesson perfectly. Humans often faced conflict, and their strength came not just from weapons but from intelligence, cooperation, and empathy. Lyra was learning to use her abilities in this way, wisely, gently, and with purpose. The decision was made. They could not stay on the Octi colony. Elias arranged for a covert departure to a neutral space station used for interstellar diplomacy. It was a long journey through uncharted space, and the shadow ships would likely pursue them. During the trip, Elias and Lyra worked together to improve their defenses. She learned how to cloak the shuttle, mask their heat signature, and communicate silently. They practiced emergency maneuvers and even tested small illusions to mislead potential attackers. Lyra absorbed each lesson with ease but always maintained her gentle demeanor. One evening, as they floated in the observation bay of the shuttle, Lyra asked softly, "Captain Elias, why do others want to take me?" Elias thought carefully. "Because you are special, but not because you are dangerous. You have abilities they do not understand. They see potential power and want to control it. But your strength comes from your mind, your heart, and your choices. That cannot be taken from you." Lyra considered this, then floated closer. "Then I must learn to show them that strength is not about fear. It is about care and courage." Elias smiled. "Exactly. And that is why the Queen trusted me with you. She saw your potential, and she saw the potential in humans to guide you wisely." The journey to the neutral station was tense. The shadow ships attempted to follow, but Lyra's skill kept them hidden. Along the way, she learned more about human strategies, using creativity and reasoning rather than brute force. Elias showed her how to predict movement, understand intentions, and act with patience. She caught on faster than he expected. When they finally arrived at the station, they were met with both curiosity and caution. Aliens from multiple civilizations stared at Lyra, unsure of what to make of her. Humans whispered, admiring her intelligence and grace. Elias stayed close, guiding her through the introductions and teaching her how to navigate these complex social encounters. It was there that they met Ambassador Jirok, a wise alien mediator known for resolving interstellar conflicts. He observed Lyra carefully. "She is unusual," he said, his voice calm. "I have met many species, but none like her. Yet she carries herself with respect and understanding. That is rare." Elias nodded. "She is learning, but she also teaches us. Her presence reminds us of what is possible when species trust each other." The shadow ships, however, were not far behind. The station's sensors detected them moving closer, preparing to strike. Elias realized that a direct confrontation could endanger not only Lyra, but the delicate balance of peace the station maintained. He needed a plan. Together, Elias and Lyra devised a clever strategy. Using her powers, she would create a distraction, bending light and energy to make the shadow ships appear elsewhere. Meanwhile, human engineers and the station's defenses would protect them. Lyra hesitated at first, worried about causing harm. "Captain Elias," she said, "I do not want to hurt anyone." "You won't," Elias reassured her. "We will only mislead them. No one will be harmed. Use your abilities wisely, as you have learned." The plan worked. Lyra's control over light and energy created illusions so convincing that the shadow ships fired at empty space. The station remained safe, and the invaders retreated, frustrated and confused. Humans and aliens alike watched in awe. After the danger passed, Elias placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You were brave and clever," he said. "You protected not only yourself but everyone around you." Lyra smiled faintly. "I am learning, but I want to do more. I want to show others that fear is not the answer." Elias realized that the lesson she had learned would be vital in the future. She was not just a child with alien powers. She was a symbol of what humans and aliens could achieve together. Courage, intelligence, and care. These were the tools that would allow her to face even greater challenges ahead. As night fell over the station, Lyra floated by the observation window, staring at the stars. "Captain Elias," she said softly, "I want to see all worlds someday. I want to understand every being." Elias placed his hand gently over hers. "And you will, Lyra. But first, you must continue to learn and grow. The galaxy is wide, and there is much to discover. We will face dangers, yes, but we will also meet friends, allies, and new lessons." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the light of distant suns. Then I am ready, she said. Elias felt a surge of pride and hope. The challenges ahead would be many, but with Lyra's intelligence, courage, and compassion, they could face whatever came their way. She was learning not only to survive but to lead, to guide, and to teach others the same values that made humans remarkable. The shadow ships were still out there, lurking somewhere beyond sensors, but Elias no longer felt fear. He had Lyra at his side, and together they would face every threat with creativity, courage, and kindness. And as the stars shimmered around them, Elias understood that the real challenge was not only to protect Lyra, but to help her grow into the leader she was destined to become, a bridge between worlds, a symbol of unity, and a reminder that humans, through care and wisdom, could leave a lasting mark on the galaxy. The shuttle descended slowly through the atmosphere of the uncharted planet. Below them stretched vast forests, rivers that glimmered like liquid silver, and mountains whose peaks pierced the clouds. Elias guided the shuttle to a clearing surrounded by tall, luminescent trees. This would be their temporary refuge, a place hidden from rival factions and far from prying eyes. Lyra floated beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. Captain Elias, it is beautiful here. The trees, the rivers, they feel alive. They are, Elias said, smiling. Everything on this planet has its own rhythm, its own energy. We can learn much here, and we must be careful not to disturb it. The shuttle landed softly and they stepped onto the ground. Lyra's small feet barely touched the soil as she floated a few inches above it, exploring with curiosity and awe. Elias followed, making sure she stayed safe while also giving her freedom to observe. The first days were spent learning to live in this new environment. Elias taught Lyra basic survival skills, how to find clean water, recognize edible plants, and identify natural shelters. But more importantly, he taught her how to move silently through the forest, how to listen to the whispers of the wind, and how to sense life around her. Lyra proved to be an exceptional student. She quickly understood how the planet's energy flowed, how the plants communicated subtle signals, and how animals reacted to movement and sound. But unlike humans, she could also feel the hidden energies, the faint pulses of life in the soil, the vibrations of the trees, the currents of the rivers. Elias watched in amazement as she adapted to the world faster than he ever could. "You are extraordinary, Lyra," he said one afternoon as they rested beside a glowing river. "Not just for your abilities, but for your mind and your heart. You notice things that humans often miss." Lyra tilted her head. "I want to understand. If I understand, I can help. If I help, I can protect." Elias smiled. "That is the right way to think. Strength is not only in what you can do, but in how wisely you use it." Over the next week, they explored the forest. Lyra discovered plants with healing properties, small creatures that communicated through light, and hidden paths that even Elias had not noticed. She laughed and floated through the trees, always curious, always gentle. Her presence seemed to awaken the forest. Flowers bloomed where she passed, streams shimmered brighter, and even animals approached her without fear. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise above the mountains, Lyra spoke softly. "Captain Elias, do you think my mother, the queen, and worries about me?" Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "She does. But she trusts you, and she trusts me to guide you. That is why we are here. And you are doing well, Lyra. You are learning to balance your gifts with kindness and wisdom." Lyra smiled faintly. "I want to make her proud, and I want to make humans proud too." Elias felt a surge of pride. Lyra was not just a child with alien powers. She was a bridge between worlds, and the lessons they were learning together were more than survival. They were about understanding, empathy, and courage. But life on the planet was not without challenges. One day, while exploring a canyon, Lyra sensed a disturbance. Her eyes glowed faintly and her small hand reached for Elias's. "Someone is here," she whispered. Elias tensed. The shadow ships had not yet given up, and it was possible they had tracked them. He instructed Lyra to remain calm and follow his lead. Together they moved silently through the canyon, using the natural terrain to hide their presence. A group of small drones scouting for the intruders passed nearby. Elias observed them carefully. "We must not engage," he said. "They are not important. Our goal is to stay hidden, not fight." Lyra nodded. She closed her eyes briefly and extended her senses. The drones slowed, confused, then moved on, unable to detect them. Elias watched in amazement. Her abilities were becoming precise, controlled, and purposeful. "That was incredible," he whispered. "You are learning to protect without causing harm. That is a rare skill, even for humans." Lyra smiled faintly. "I learned from you." The days turned into weeks. Elias and Lyra developed a deep bond. They learned each other's thoughts, without words understood each other's fears and hopes, and shared moments of quiet joy in the beauty of the planet. Lyra taught Elias to see subtle patterns in nature, how to listen to the energy of the world, and how to understand creatures that humans often overlooked. Elias, in turn, taught Lyra about human creativity, resilience, and empathy. He showed her how humans could adapt to any environment, solve problems using imagination, and make decisions guided by both logic and heart. Together, they practiced communication, strategy, and patience, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. 1. Afternoon, Lyra found an ancient ruin hidden in the forest. The structure was covered in vines, its walls etched with symbols that glowed faintly. She floated closer, examining the markings. "Captain Elias," she said, "these symbols, they feel familiar. They are like energy patterns I have sensed before. Do you think someone lived here long ago?" Elias nodded. "Yes, and perhaps we can learn from them. Understanding the past can help us guide the future." They spent hours exploring the ruin. Lyra discovered carvings that depicted harmony between different species, lessons about empathy and cooperation, and warnings about the misuse of power. Elias realized that this hidden place held wisdom that could help them in the coming challenges. As night fell, they returned to their shelter. Lyra's eyes glowed softly in the dim light. "Captain Elias," she said, "I feel stronger here. I feel connected to the world, to you, to everyone." Elias smiled, placing his hand gently over hers. "That is because you are learning to balance your gifts with your heart. Strength without care is dangerous, but strength with understanding, that is true power." Over time, Lyra began to use her abilities in subtle ways to help the planet itself. She encouraged plants to grow, healed small animals, and even helped a river change course to prevent flooding. Elias watched, amazed at how she combined her alien powers with human values of empathy and care. But even in this peaceful place, they could not forget the shadow ships and the rival factions. Elias knew that their time on the planet would be temporary. The galaxy was vast, but dangers lurked everywhere. Still, he felt confident that Lyra was learning not just to survive, but to thrive and lead. One evening, as they sat beneath a tree glowing with soft golden light, Lyra spoke softly. "Captain Elias, will we ever see my mother again?" "Yes," Elias replied. "And when we do, you will show her what you have learned. You will show her that humans can teach kindness, courage, and wisdom. That is why she trusted us. That is why she entrusted you to me." Lyra considered this, then smiled. "I want to make her proud. And I want to help humans understand each other too." Elias felt a deep sense of purpose. Lyra was not only a child, she was a teacher, a guide, and a symbol. Together, they were building something that could change the future of multiple worlds. The nights on the planet were filled with quiet reflection. Elias taught Lyra how to meditate, to focus her energy, and to understand emotions, both hers and others. Lyra learned quickly, her mind and heart growing stronger each day. One morning, while exploring a hill overlooking a valley, Lyra paused. "Captain Elias," she said, I think I understand now. The galaxy is wide, but the lessons we learn here, they can reach everywhere. We can show others how to care, how to understand, and how to be brave. Elias nodded, his heart full of pride. Yes, Lyra. That is exactly why the Queen entrusted you to me. You are learning to become a bridge between worlds, a leader who can guide with wisdom and kindness. Lyra floated beside him, her eyes shining in the sunlight. Then I will continue to learn, and I will continue to teach. Together, we will make a difference. Elias smiled, knowing that their bond, the trust, the lessons, the shared experiences, was the foundation for the challenges yet to come. The galaxy might be dangerous, and enemies might still hunt them, but together, they were ready. And as the wind whispered through the glowing trees and the rivers reflected the twin moons, Elias realized that the real strength of humans, and of Lyra, was not in weapons or power, but in the courage to care, the wisdom to guide, and the hope to change the future. The shuttle cut through the darkness of space, stars streaking past like diamonds. Elias Mercer sat beside Lyra, watching her float silently near the observation window. The uncharted planet behind them was now a distant memory, but its lessons remained. Lyra had grown in wisdom, patience, and strength. More than that, she had learned the most important lesson of all, to balance power with compassion. We are approaching the Zirth throne world, Elias said, pointing to a distant planet with rings of shimmering energy. Your mother awaits. You, Lyra. Lyra's eyes reflected the planet's glow. I feel nervous, she admitted softly. I have learned so much, but will it be enough? Elias smiled. You have done more than enough. Remember, it is not just what you know or what you can do. It is who you are, your heart, your patience, your courage. That is what matters. The throne world loomed larger as they entered orbit. Its cities sparkled like constellations, built on vast floating platforms connected by streams of energy. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered around the central palace, the seat of the Zirth Queen. Aliens from countless civilizations had gathered, curious about Lyra's return. As they approached the landing bay, Elias felt a familiar tingle of anticipation. Meeting the Queen had changed his life once. This moment would shape it forever. Lyra floated beside him, calm but poised, ready to face the future. When the palace doors opened, the Queen appeared, her radiant presence filling the chamber. Her eyes, deep pools of gold and silver, held both pride and curiosity. Lyra, she said, her voice melodic and warm, you have returned. Tell me, what have you learned? Lyra floated forward gracefully. Mother, I have learned many things. I have learned to understand humans, to see their strength and their kindness. I have learned patience, courage, and how to balance power with care. And I have learned that true leadership comes from understanding, not fear. The Queen studied her daughter carefully, a faint smile playing across her features. You speak wisely, Lyra. Your journey has been guided by a human. Tell me, Captain Elias, how has humanity shaped her? Elias stepped forward, bowing slightly. Your Majesty, Lyra has shown extraordinary growth. Humans taught her patience, empathy, and creativity. But she has taught us in return how to see the world in ways we could not, how to sense subtle truths, and how to act with wisdom and care. She is ready to lead, not just with power, but with understanding. The Queen's eyes glowed brighter. You have done well, human. I entrusted her to you because I knew you would guide her without fear, without greed, and with patience. You have honored that trust. Lyra's eyes met her mother's. Mother, I will continue to learn, to teach, and to help all worlds. I will be a bridge between species, showing that understanding is stronger than fear. The Queen reached out, placing a delicate hand on Lyra's shoulder. And you shall, my child. You have become a symbol of hope, for the Zirth, for humans, and for the galaxy. Elias watched quietly, filled with pride. He had trained many diplomats, explorers, and leaders, but none like Lyra. She was not only intelligent and powerful, but also wise beyond her years. Her presence reminded him why humans were capable of so much more than they often realized. The throne world soon became a stage for diplomacy. Lyra, guided by her human mentor, began meeting representatives from multiple civilizations. Her calm demeanor, careful words, and gentle control of her powers impressed every delegate. Where others might have demanded respect through fear or threats, Lyra commanded it through understanding and insight. A council of alien leaders gathered in the central chamber, discussing tensions between neighboring empires. Normally, such talks might have escalated into threats or conflict. But Lyra, floating gracefully above the center, spoke clearly and patiently. She reminded the leaders of their shared goals, of the value of cooperation, and of the lessons she had learned from humans: patience, empathy, and courage. Strength is not in domination, she said. It is in understanding. It is in choosing to protect, to guide, and to help each other. If we act with care and wisdom, all worlds can flourish together. Elias watched as even the most skeptical leaders nodded in agreement. Lyra's words carried the authority of experience, the wisdom of two civilizations, and the compassion of a heart that had learned the true meaning of leadership. Despite the tension outside, the shadow of previous threats still lingered. Rival factions who had once tried to capture Lyra attempted to send subtle messages, testing boundaries and waiting for weakness. But Lyra, calm and composed, remained vigilant. She had learned to sense intentions, to anticipate actions, and to act with precision and care. One evening, after a long day of diplomacy, Elias and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Ships from countless worlds drifted below, their lights reflecting in the rings of the planet. "Captain Elias," Lyra said softly, "I feel ready, but will humans understand me? Will they see that I am not a weapon, but a bridge?" Elias placed his hand gently on hers. "They will, Lyra. Humans are learning too. They will see what you have shown us. That strength, courage, and intelligence mean little without empathy and understanding. You have shown that humans and aliens can work together for the greater good." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then I will continue. I will help them understand, and I will help all worlds." Elias felt hope rise in his chest. This was more than survival, more than victory. It was legacy, the kind that would last beyond one lifetime, beyond one planet. Humans, through care and guidance, had shaped a leader who could inspire the galaxy. The Queen approached, her gaze filled with pride. "Captain Elias, you have fulfilled your duty beyond expectation. Lyra has grown in ways even I could not have imagined. You have taught her patience, courage, and wisdom. You have honored humanity." Elias bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, it was my honor. But Lyra taught me too, about hope, about patience, and about the strength of kindness. Humans can only reach their potential when they see themselves in others, and Lyra showed me that clearly." The Queen nodded, her voice soft and melodic. "Then the future is bright. With Lyra leading, guided by the lessons of both her worlds, peace is possible. She will be the bridge we all need." Lyra floated forward, looking at Elias with gratitude. "Captain, I could not have done this without you. You taught me not just knowledge, but how to care, how to understand, and how to choose wisely. I will carry that forever." Elias smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known. "And I will always be proud of you, Lyra. You are a reminder of what humans can achieve when we guide with wisdom and heart." The following days were filled with celebration and diplomacy. Aliens from multiple worlds came to witness Lyra's leadership, to learn from her example, and to share knowledge that would strengthen alliances. Humans, too, began to understand the importance of empathy, cooperation, and courage. Lyra's presence reminded everyone that true power was not in fear or dominance, but in the ability to guide wisely and act with care. Finally, as the celebrations ended and the galaxy seemed to settle into a fragile peace, Elias and Lyra returned to a quiet chamber. The queen joined them, her presence calm and reassuring. "Lyra," she said, "you have learned, you have grown, and you have taught. Now, you are ready to take your place, not just as my daughter, but as a leader for all worlds." Lyra nodded, floating beside her mother. "I will continue to learn, Mother, but I will also continue to guide, to help, and to protect. I will be the bridge you hoped I could be." Elias felt a sense of fulfillment he had never imagined. From the first moment the queen entrusted him with Lyra, he had hoped to guide her safely, to teach her the ways of humans and to help her grow. Now he realized that together they had shaped something far greater, a legacy of unity, understanding, and hope. The queen smiled at Elias. "You have done more than I could have asked. Humanity has proven itself not just through technology or courage, but through heart and wisdom. You have shown that even in a vast galaxy, small acts of care and understanding can change the course of worlds." Elias bowed. "Your Majesty, it has been the greatest honor of my life." Lyra floated close, her hand brushing his. "Captain Elias, thank you. Together, we showed that humans and aliens can achieve great things, and together, we will continue to guide the future." The stars outside the palace windows seemed to shine a little brighter that night. Ships drifted calmly in orbit. Alien voices carried across the chambers, and the galaxy felt, for the first time in a long while, like a place of hope. Elias looked at Lyra, her eyes reflecting the light of countless worlds. "We have done well, Lyra," he said softly. She smiled. "And we will continue, Captain, together." In that moment, Elias understood the truth the queen had known all along. Humans, with their creativity, courage, and compassion, could shape the future, not just for themselves but for countless worlds. Lyra was proof of that truth, a symbol of what was possible when wisdom and kindness guided power. And as they looked out over the galaxy, Elias and Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. The legacy they had created would inspire generations, bridging species, civilizations, and worlds, reminding everyone that the greatest strength of all was not in domination or fear, but in understanding, courage, and heart.